Fleet Commander Velta stood on the bridge of the Eternal Harmony, his three eyes focused on the holographic display before him. The sensors had detected something unusual at the edge of Council space. An unknown vessel had crossed into their territory without permission or identification. "Status report," Veltas commanded, his voice carrying the natural authority of someone who had served the Galactic Council for 40 cycles. "Commander, the vessel is approximately 2,000 meters in length. Its energy signature is unlike anything in our database," his sensor officer replied, her antenna twitching with uncertainty. "The propulsion system appears to be nuclear fusion-based. Very primitive by our standards." Veltas tilted his head in confusion. Nuclear fusion? That technology was thousands of years old. Most civilizations abandoned it after discovering quantum field drives. Why would any spacefaring species still use such outdated methods? "Attempt standard first contact protocols," he ordered. "All languages. Let us see if they respond." The communications officer began transmitting the universal greeting in 17 different linguistic patterns. The Council had encountered 43 species over the millennia, and each first contact followed the same peaceful procedure. They would introduce themselves, explain Council laws, and offer guidance to the newcomers. Minutes passed in silence. The unknown ship continued its course, neither accelerating nor changing direction. It simply moved forward with mechanical precision. "Commander, we are receiving a response," the communications officer announced suddenly. "They are transmitting in multiple languages. Some match our database, but others are completely unknown." "Put it through," Veltas ordered. A voice filled the bridge, speaking in clear Galactic standard. The accent was strange, but the words were perfectly understandable. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Nations Space Command vessel Indomitable. We come in peace and request permission to enter Galactic Council space. We are explorers from the planet Earth, seeking contact with other intelligent life." Veltas exchanged glances with his officers. The translation was flawless, suggesting advanced linguistic capabilities. Yet their propulsion technology seemed centuries behind. It made no sense. "Vessel Indomitable, this is Fleet Commander Veltas of the Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet. You have entered restricted space. Please maintain your current position while we conduct standard security procedures. Do not be alarmed. This is routine protocol." "Understood, Commander Veltas. We will maintain position. However, we cannot lower our defensive systems until we establish mutual trust." "I hope you understand defensive systems?" Veltas felt a ripple of amusement. What kind of defensive systems could a ship with nuclear fusion possibly have that would concern a Council fleet? His vessel alone carried enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. "Proceed with scanning procedures," he commanded. "Let us see what these humans are capable of." The sensor arrays activated, sending waves of particles and energy across the void to map the human vessel. The data began flowing back, and Veltas watched as the ship's structure materialized in the holographic display. What he saw made him freeze. The ship's hull was impossibly thick. Where Council vessels measured armor in centimeters, this human warship had meters of layered metal. The outer hull appeared to be some form of composite armor, beneath which lay multiple layers of different materials. Each layer seemed designed to absorb different types of damage. "Commander, these readings cannot be correct," the sensor officer said, her voice uncertain. "The ship's mass is enormous, at least 3 times what it should be for a vessel of this size." "Verify the scans," Veltas ordered. The officer worked quickly, running multiple confirmation protocols. Each scan returned the same impossible data. "Confirmed, Commander. The human vessel is built like a fortress. I am detecting massive redundancy in every system. They have backup power generators, backup life support, backup communications. Some systems have 3 or 4 redundant copies." Veltas studied the hologram more carefully. The ship's design was brutal in its simplicity. No elegant curves or aesthetic considerations. Every surface seemed purposeful, designed for function rather than form. Weapon ports dotted the hull at regular intervals. He counted at least 40 visible installations, and the scans suggested more were hidden beneath retractable panels. "What kind of weapons are those?" he asked, pointing to several large structures along the ship's spine. "Analyzing now, Commander." The sensor officer paused, clearly confused by the data. "Sir, they appear to be kinetic accelerators. Railguns, according to our historical database. They fire solid projectiles using electromagnetic force." "Railguns?" Velthas repeated in disbelief. Why would anyone use solid projectiles when energy weapons are far more efficient? Unknown, Commander. But that is not all. The ship also carries hundreds of self-propelled explosive devices. Missiles, the database calls them. And there are energy weapons as well. Laser arrays and what appears to be plasma cannons. Velthas felt something he had not experienced in many years. Genuine confusion. The human vessel carried an impossible combination of technologies. Ancient kinetic weapons alongside modern energy systems. Primitive fusion drives but advanced communications. Heavy armor instead of energy shields. Analysis team, what are we looking at? He demanded. His chief analyst, a thin creature with 8 fingers and a calculating mind, stepped forward. Commander, I have 3 theories. First, this species might be in a transitional period, upgrading from old technology to new. Second, they might be scavengers who assembled this vessel from various sources. Third, the analyst hesitated. Third, Velthas prompted. Third, they might know something we do not. This design philosophy is completely contrary to Council standards, but that does not mean it is wrong. Just different. The word hung in the air like a warning. Open a channel, Velthas ordered. Let us speak with this Captain Chen directly. The view screen activated, showing the interior of the human bridge. Velthas saw a being unlike any in the Council database. The human captain was bipedal, with 2 eyes positioned forward on her face. Predator's eyes, Velthas realized with a start. Her expression was calm but alert, and she wore a uniform of dark blue with strange symbols on the shoulders. Commander Velthas, Captain Chen said with a slight nod. Thank you for your patience. I understand our arrival must be surprising. Indeed, Captain. We have many questions about your vessel and your people. Your technology seems inconsistent. Chen smiled, though Velthas was not sure if the expression indicated amusement or something else. I imagine it does from your perspective. We humans tend to approach problems differently than others might. We have learned through hard experience that redundancy and durability are more valuable than elegance. Your ship appears to be designed for combat. Velthas observed carefully. Every human ship is designed for combat, Commander. We come from a dangerous universe. Or perhaps we simply perceive it as more dangerous than you do. We prefer to be prepared. Velthas studied the human captain carefully. There was something in her eyes, something that suggested depths he did not yet understand. This was not a naive species taking its first steps into space. This was a species that had already learned harsh lessons. Captain Chen, I am authorizing a diplomatic intercept. My fleet will escort your vessel to Station Harmony, where we can continue this conversation in more comfortable surroundings. Will you accept? Gladly, Commander. We look forward to learning more about the Galactic Council and its member species. As the channel closed, Velthas stood in silence, studying the holographic image of the human warship. Something about this encounter felt significant, though he could not explain why. The Indomitable was just one ship, one species among many. Yet the way it was built, the philosophy behind its design, suggested a species that expected trouble. A species that had learned to survive against difficult odds. Velthas had a feeling that the galaxy was about to learn something new about the nature of survival. The Indomitable moved through space flanked by 6 Council escort vessels. From the bridge, Captain Sarah Chen watched the alien ships with professional interest. They were beautiful in their own way, sleek and graceful like fish swimming through water. Their hulls gleamed with a silver-blue coating that seemed to shimmer with energy. They are scanning us again, Captain. Lieutenant Morrison reported from the sensor station. 4th pass in the last hour. Let them look, Chen replied calmly. They will see what we want them to see, and they will wonder about what we are. She understood the confusion her ship must be causing. The Indomitable was not designed to impress anyone with beauty. It was designed to survive, to fight, and to protect its crew. Every human warship followed the same basic philosophy. Assume you will be hit. Assume systems will fail. Assume the worst will happen, and build accordingly. On the Council flagship, Velthas was experiencing exactly the confusion Chen anticipated. His entire analysis team had gathered in the main conference room, examining the scans of the human vessel with growing bewilderment. The armor alone makes no sense, the chief engineer stated, manipulating the holographic display. Look at this cross-section. 7 distinct layers, each with different properties. The outer layer is designed to ablate under energy weapon fire. The second layer absorbs kinetic impacts. The third disperses heat. And so on all the way down. Why not simply use energy shields? Another analyst asked. They are lighter, more efficient, and can be adjusted to defend against different threats. Perhaps they do not have shield technology? Someone suggested, no, that cannot be right. We detected energy fields around critical systems. They have some form of shielding technology, but they use it selectively, as a backup to physical armor rather than a primary defense. Veltas listened to the debate with growing fascination. His people had abandoned heavy armor thousands of years ago when shields proved superior. Every council species followed the same logic. Avoid damage rather than absorb it. Design ships to be fast and maneuverable. Strike from range and retreat if threatened. The human approach seemed completely backward. Show me the interior structure, he commanded. The hologram shifted, revealing the Indomitable's internal layout. What Velthus saw was even more confusing than the armor. The ship was divided into dozens of sealed compartments, each capable of being isolated from the others. Every critical system had redundant backups scattered throughout the vessel. The crew quarters were reinforced like bunkers. Emergency supplies were stored in multiple locations. It is like they expect the ship to be torn apart while still keeping the crew alive, the medical officer observed. That is exactly what they expect, Belthas realized suddenly. This vessel is not designed to avoid damage. It is designed to continue fighting while being damaged. Look at the weapon placement. Every angle of approach is covered. Even if half the ship is destroyed, the other half can still fire. That is madness, someone whispered. Who would design a ship with the expectation it will be crippled? Someone who has experience being crippled and surviving, Veltas answered quietly. The analysis continued. The humans carried weapons that seemed contradictory. Railguns that required enormous power but could punch through solid matter. Missiles that were slower than energy weapons but could carry different payloads. Lasers for precision work. Plasma cannons for close-range devastation. Even explosive charges designed for ramming attacks. They are prepared for every possible combat scenario, the tactical officer noted. Long-range, short-range, boarding actions, defensive positions. This ship can fight in any situation. What about the propulsion? Veltas asked. We confirmed it is nuclear fusion? Yes, Commander. But not any fusion system we have seen before. They are using a series of controlled explosions to generate thrust. It is inefficient compared to our quantum drives, but it produces enormous raw power. And the fuel is common hydrogen available anywhere in the universe. Veltas began to understand. The humans were not technologically primitive. They were technologically practical. Every choice in their design philosophy favored reliability, redundancy, and sustainability over efficiency and elegance. Their ship might be slower than a council vessel, but it would never be stranded because it ran out of exotic fuel or rare materials. Request a diplomatic meeting, Veltas ordered. I want to speak with Captain Chen face to face, and prepare a full presentation of our findings for the council. They need to see this. 3 hours later, Velthas and Captain Chen met in a conference room aboard Station Harmony. The room was designed to accommodate many different species, with adjustable gravity, atmosphere, and seating. Chen arrived with 2 of her officers, and Velthas noticed they all moved with a certain controlled grace. Like predators, he thought again, always alert, always aware of their surroundings. Captain Chen, thank you for agreeing to this meeting, Veltas began. I must admit your vessel has created quite a stir among our analysts. We have never encountered a design philosophy quite like yours. Chen smiled. I imagine we do things differently. Commander, may I ask you a question? Of course. What is the longest war your species has ever fought? Velthas blinked in surprise at the question. War? We have had conflicts, certainly. Border disputes and resource disagreements. But actual warfare has been rare in council space for thousands of years. Perhaps the Terral Uprising lasted 3 years. That was considered an unusually long conflict. 3 years, Chen repeated softly. On Earth we fought a war that lasted 30 years. Another that lasted 100. And for most of our history, some part of our world was always at war with another part. We have been fighting each other, fighting our environment, fighting for survival for as long as we have existed. That sounds terrible, Veltas said honestly. It was. It is. But it taught us things. It taught us that the best plan fails when the enemy gets a vote. It taught us that expensive, complex equipment breaks at the worst possible moment. It taught us that the side which can keep fighting longest usually wins. So we build our ships to keep fighting. She gestured to a display showing the Indomitable. Our ship is not elegant. It is not the fastest or the most advanced, but it can take damage that would destroy a more sophisticated vessel. It can fight with half its systems offline. It can operate for months without resupply. And if it is boarded, every corridor is a defensive position. Every compartment is a fortress. You expect to lose every engagement, Velthus said, understanding dawning. No, Commander. We expect to win every engagement. But we also expect to pay a price for that victory. The question is whether we can afford the price and still complete our mission. The Indomitable was designed so the answer is always yes. Velthus felt a chill run through his body. The humans were not preparing for battle. They were preparing for war. Total war, where survival mattered more than victory because survival meant you could fight again tomorrow. Captain, I must ask, are humans a violent species? Chen considered the question carefully. We can be. We have the capacity for great violence. But we also have the capacity for great compassion. We build these warships not because we want to fight, but because we want to protect what we love. Our families, our homes, our future. We learned long ago that peace is not the absence of war. Peace is the presence of justice, backed by the ability to defend it. Before Velthus could respond, an alarm blared through the station. His communicator activated immediately. Commander, emergency. We are receiving a distress signal from a civilian convoy. They are under attack by pirates 15 light minutes from our position. Velthus stood immediately. How many hostile vessels? 3 confirmed. The convoy has no military escort. Casualties are likely. Alert the fleet. We need to organize a response. Protocol requires we wait for proper reinforcements from the sector command. They can be here in 6 hours. 6 hours? Chen's voice cut through the room like a blade. Those people do not have 6 hours. Captain, I understand your concern, but we must follow proper procedures. We cannot risk... With respect, Commander, I did not ask for permission. Chen was already moving toward the door, her officers following. She activated her communicator. Indomitable, this is Chen. Prepare for immediate combat operations. Plot intercept course for the distress signal. All hands to battle stations. We are going in. Velthus watched her go, feeling something close to awe. The humans had been in council space for less than a day, and they were already breaking protocol to rescue strangers. Perhaps the council had more to learn from these newcomers than he had realized. The Indomitable accelerated away from Station Harmony at a speed that surprised every council observer. Despite its massive armor and heavy construction, the human warship moved with purpose, its fusion engines burning bright against the darkness of space. Velthus stood on the bridge of his own vessel, torn between duty and curiosity. Protocol demanded he wait for proper authorization before engaging pirates. But the humans were not bound by council regulations, and if he was being honest with himself, he wanted to see what they would do. Follow them, he ordered. Maintain observation distance. Record everything. Captain Chen stood at the center of the Indomitable's bridge, her voice calm despite the urgent situation. Around her, the crew moved with practiced efficiency. Every person knew their role. Every action was deliberate. Status report, she commanded. Distress signal is from the merchant vessel, Peaceful Trader, and its escort convoy. 4 civilian ships total. They are under attack by 3 pirate vessels. Scans indicate the pirates are using modified raiding craft with light weapons and boarding equipment. Time to intercept? 12 minutes at current speed. Can we go faster? The engine officer checked his displays. Yes, Captain, but we will arrive with depleted fuel reserves. Do it. Those civilians do not have time for us to be cautious. Weapon status? All systems green. Railguns charged. Missile tubes loaded. Energy weapons ready. Chen nodded. Good. Load anti-ship rounds in the railguns. Prepare missile salvo, pattern Delta. I want those pirates to know we mean business the moment we arrive. On Velthas's ship, the council observers watched in fascination as the Indomitable pushed its engines beyond normal operational limits. The fusion reaction grew brighter, more intense. It was dangerous, possibly even reckless, but it was effective. Commander, the human vessel will arrive at the battle site 4 minutes before any possible council reinforcement, an officer reported. I am aware, Velthus replied. Let us see what they do with those 4 minutes. The Indomitable dropped out of high acceleration at the edge of the combat zone. Chen immediately assessed the situation. 3 pirate vessels circled the convoy like predators around wounded prey, One civilian ship was already disabled, atmosphere venting from multiple hull breaches. The other three were trying to flee but were being herded back by weapons fire. "Pirates are hailing us, Captain," the communications officer reported. "They are demanding we leave or face attack. Ignore them. Tactical, give me firing solutions on all 3 targets. Solutions locked, Captain." "Fire!" The Indomitable's railguns spoke first. 3 magnetic accelerators launched solid projectiles at a fraction of the speed of light. The rounds crossed the distance in seconds, striking the nearest pirate vessel. The ship's shields flickered and failed under the kinetic impact. The projectile punched through the hull and exited the other side, leaving a neat hole that immediately began venting atmosphere. Before the pirates could react, the second wave hit. Missiles streaked across space, their engines burning bright. The pirates fired defensive weapons, destroying some missiles, but others got through. Explosions blossomed against hulls. One pirate ship lost its engine section entirely. 2 pirates disabled, Captain. The third is breaking off and trying to flee. Do not let it escape. It will only attack someone else tomorrow. Target its engines and weapons. I want it alive for questioning, but I want it harmless. The Indomitable pursued the fleeing pirate, and Chen demonstrated why human warships carried such diverse weapons. Lasers, precise and fast, targeted the pirate's weapon systems. Small explosions marked each successful hit. Then plasma cannons, slower but devastating at close range, melted the engine section into slag. The pirate vessel went dark, tumbling through space without power. All 3 targets neutralized, Captain. Good. Begin rescue operations for the civilian crew. Medical teams prepare to receive wounded. Engineering, check those merchant ships for structural damage. Velthus watched the entire engagement with amazement. From first shot to last target neutralized, the battle had lasted less than 90 seconds. The human ship had moved with brutal efficiency, using the right weapon for each situation. The tactics were aggressive but controlled. Overwhelming force applied precisely where needed. But what happened next surprised him even more. The Indomitable moved among the damaged civilian ships, extending docking tubes and rescue equipment. Human crew members crossed into the alien vessels, providing medical care and emergency repairs. They worked without hesitation, even though these were completely unknown species with potentially dangerous biology. "Open a channel to Captain Chen," Velthus ordered. Chen's face appeared on the view screen. She looked calm, though Velthus could see the sweat on her forehead and the tension in her shoulders. Combat, even brief combat, took its toll. "Commander Velthus," she acknowledged. "As you can see, the situation is under control. The pirates are disabled, and we are assisting the civilian vessels." "Captain, you violated Council protocol by engaging without authorization," Velthus stated. Though his tone was more curious than accusatory. "I did, and I would do it again. Those civilians would have died if we waited 6 hours for your reinforcements. I assume the Council values life?" "Of course we do." "Then we made the right choice. You can file whatever reports you need to file, but those people are alive because we acted." Before Velthus could respond, a new alarm sounded. One of the disabled pirate vessels was moving again. Somehow it had managed to restore partial power to its weapons. "Captain, contact. Pirate Vessel 2 is targeting the civilian ships." Chen did not hesitate. "Engineering emergency power to forward shields. Helm, put us between that pirate and the civilians, now." The Indomitable surged forward, placing itself directly in the path of the pirates' desperate attack. Energy weapons from the pirate ship struck the human warship's forward armor. The shields absorbed some of the impact, but not all. Velthus watched in horror as the Indomitable's outer hull glowed red, then white, as the armor heated under sustained fire. "Captain Chen is using her ship as a shield," his tactical officer reported in disbelief. "She is deliberately taking damage meant for the civilian vessels." "This is insane," someone whispered. "She will be destroyed." But the Indomitable did not break. The armor held, layer after layer absorbing energy that would have vaporized a lighter vessel. And while the pirate focused on the human ship, the Indomitable's weapons tracked and locked. "Fire," Chen ordered, her voice steel. A single railgun shot crossed the void. The solid projectile struck the pirate vessel's reactor. The ship disappeared in a flash of white light as its power core went critical. Silence filled both bridges. On the Indomitable, damage reports were flooding in. The forward armor was compromised in 3 sections. 2 weapon systems were offline. One compartment had lost atmosphere, but the ship remained combat-capable, and more importantly, the crew was alive. On Velthas's bridge, the council officers stared at their displays in stunned silence. They had just witnessed something impossible by their standards. A ship deliberately taking damage to protect others. A captain risking her vessel and crew for strangers she had never met. "Get me medical support to that ship immediately," Velthas ordered. "And contact Council Command. Tell them we have encountered something unprecedented." An hour later, the immediate crisis was over. The civilian ships were limping toward safety, escorted by Council vessels. The Indomitable remained on station, its crew working to repair battle damage. Velthas contacted Captain Chen one more time. "Captain, my analysts estimate your ship suffered damage that would have destroyed any Council vessel. Yet you remain operational. How?" Chen looked tired but satisfied. "Like I told you, Commander. We design our ships to keep fighting. We took damage, yes, but we have redundant systems. Backup power, emergency repairs. The hull is compromised, but the ship is still alive. We will patch the holes, replace the damaged sections, and be ready for the next crisis." "The next crisis," Velthas repeated. "You expect there will always be a next crisis." "Commander, in our experience, there is always a next crisis. The universe is big and dangerous. Bad things happen to good people. Our job is to be ready when they do, to stand between the innocent and the harm that would come to them. That is what warships are for." Velthas looked at the damaged human vessel on his screen. It was scarred, battered, and still somehow impressive, like a warrior that had taken a beating but refused to fall. "Captain Chen, I believe the Galactic Council has much to learn from humanity, and perhaps much to fear as well." Chen smiled, though there was no humor in it. "We did not come to this galaxy to be feared, Commander. We came to find friends, allies, partners. But if someone threatens the innocent, then yes, they should fear us, because we will not stand aside. We cannot. It is not in our nature." As the channel closed, Velthas stood in the quiet of his bridge and wondered what his report to the council would say. How could he explain what he had witnessed? How could he make them understand that humanity represented something new, something the galaxy had not seen before, a species that chose to endure rather than avoid, that built fortresses instead of race cars, that would sacrifice themselves for strangers without a moment's hesitation? The galaxy, Velthas thought, was about to change. The council chamber on Station Harmony was designed to accommodate representatives from all 43 member species. Tiered seating rose in concentric circles around a central platform, each level adjusted for different environmental needs. Some areas were flooded with water for aquatic species. Others maintained low gravity or high-pressure atmospheres. Despite their differences, all eyes were now focused on the holographic display at the center of the room. Fleet Commander Velthas stood beside Captain Sarah Chen on the central platform. Around them, the display showed footage from the pirate engagement. The council members watched in silence as the Indomitable placed itself between the civilians and certain death. "Explain this decision, Captain Chen," Council Speaker Moravian said. The speaker was an ancient being, her species among the first to achieve space travel. Her voice carried the weight of millennia. "Why did you risk your vessel and crew for strangers? Your ship could have been destroyed. Your people could have died." Chen stood straight, her hands clasped behind her back. "Speaker Moravian, with respect, that is exactly why we did it. Because our people could have died. Because the risk was real. Because the choice mattered." "I do not understand," another council member said. This one was tall and thin, with translucent skin that revealed bioluminescent organs beneath. Surely the logical action was to wait for reinforcements, to minimize risk and maximize the chance of success. That would have been logical, Chen agreed. It also would have been wrong. Those civilians did not have time to wait. Every second we delayed meant more deaths. Sometimes logic has to give way to necessity. "But you damaged your ship," someone else protested. "Your forward armor is compromised. 2 weapon systems are offline. You will need weeks of repairs." "Yes, we will. And we will make those repairs, and the ship will be stronger than before. That is what humans do. We take damage, we learn from it, and we build better. Our scars make us wiser, not weaker." Velthas activated a new set of displays. "Council members, I have prepared an analysis of human military philosophy based on my observations. With your permission, Captain Chen has agreed to explain her species' approach to warfare and survival." The speaker gestured approval. Chen took a breath, gathering her thoughts. How could she explain humanity's history to beings who had never known real hardship? Let me tell you about Earth, she began. Our homeworld is not a gentle place. The temperature varies wildly between seasons. We have massive storms that can level entire cities, earthquakes that split the ground open, volcanoes that block out the sun. And before we learned to control our environment, these things killed us by the thousands. The holographic display shifted, showing images of Earth. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, hurricanes and tsunamis. The council members watched with growing unease. We evolved in this environment, Chen continued. We learned to survive conditions that would kill most species. We developed the ability to endure cold that would freeze your blood, heat that would cook your organs. We learned to go days without water, weeks without food. Our bodies adapted to become survival machines. She paused, watching the council members' reactions. Some looked disturbed, others fascinated. But it was not just the environment that shaped us. It was each other. Humans competed with other apex predators for food and territory. We had to outsmart creatures with sharper teeth, stronger bodies, and faster reflexes. So we developed something else. Persistence. The ability to keep going when any sane creature would give up. A new image appeared. A human hunter tracking prey across open plains, running for hours under the brutal sun. This is called persistence hunting, Chen explained. Our ancestors would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We were not faster. We were not stronger. But we could keep running when the prey could not. We could endure heat, thirst, pain, and keep moving forward. That is the human advantage. We do not quit. This is disturbing, one council member said. You are describing predatory behavior. Your species hunted other creatures to death through sheer stubbornness. Yes, Chen said simply. We did, we still do in a way. When humans face a problem, we do not look for the easy solution. We look for the solution that works. And if that means taking longer, suffering more, or paying a higher price, we accept that. Because the alternative is failure, and failure means death. She gestured to the display, which now showed the Indomitable under fire. This is why we build our ships the way we do. We assume we will be hit. We assume systems will fail. We assume the enemy will be stronger, faster, and better prepared. So we build ships that can absorb punishment and keep fighting. We train our crews to operate under the worst possible conditions. We plan for disaster and prepare to overcome it. But surely there are limits, the speaker said. Surely there are situations where even humans would retreat. Chen was quiet for a moment. There are situations where we might retreat tactically, to regroup and attack from a better position. But give up? Surrender? Accept defeat? That is much harder for us, because in our history, surrender meant extinction. The tribes that gave up did not survive. The civilizations that quit disappeared. Only the stubborn ones, the ones who refused to die, made it to the present day. Velthus added his own observation. Council members, I have studied human history. They have survived multiple mass extinction events. Ice ages that covered most of their planet. Volcanic eruptions that darkened their skies for years. Plagues that killed half their population. And every time they recovered. They adapted. They survived. Tell them about the wars, someone said quietly. It was one of the few council members who looked vaguely predatory, with forward-facing eyes and sharp features. Chen nodded slowly. Yes, the wars. Humans have fought each other for as long as we have existed. Tribes fought tribes. Nations fought nations. Eventually, we developed weapons that could destroy our entire planet. Nuclear weapons capable of ending all life on Earth. Gasps and expressions of horror rippled through the chamber. We came very close to using them, Chen continued. There were moments when annihilation was just one decision away. But we chose not to. We looked at the edge of the abyss and stepped back. We learned to cooperate instead of destroy. It was not easy. It took generations, but we did it. Why are you telling us this? The speaker asked. Are you trying to frighten us? No, speaker. I am trying to help you understand us. Humans are capable of terrible violence. We know this. We have seen what we can do to each other. But we are also capable of incredible compassion. We can look at strangers and see friends. We can risk everything to save people we have never met. Both of these things are true. Both are part of who we are. The speaker was silent for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. Captain Chen, your species frightens me. You build warships as fortresses. You fight until you cannot fight anymore. You have nearly destroyed yourselves and chose to step back at the last moment. You are either the most dangerous species we have encountered or the most noble. Perhaps both. Perhaps both, Chen agreed. But I will tell you this, Speaker. Humanity did not come to your galaxy to conquer. We came to explore, to learn, to make friends. We bring our warships because we know the universe is dangerous. But we also bring our hope, our curiosity, and our willingness to help those in need. Judge us by our actions, not our capacity for violence. Velthus stepped forward. Council members, I have spent time with Captain Chen and her crew. I have watched them risk their lives for strangers. I have seen their dedication to protecting the innocent. Yes, they are warriors, but they are warriors with honor. Perhaps the galaxy needs such warriors. The question is not whether we need them, another council member said. The question is whether we can trust them, whether we can integrate a species so fundamentally different from our own peaceful civilizations. We spent thousands of years avoiding conflict, someone else added. We built our society on cooperation and mutual benefit. Can humans truly adapt to such a culture? Chen smiled. Council members, we have already adapted once. We learned to stop fighting each other and work together. Joining your council would simply be an extension of that process. But I will be honest with you. We will never be exactly like you. We will always be a little more paranoid, a little more prepared for trouble, a little more willing to fight. That is who we are. The question is whether you can accept that difference and see it as strength rather than weakness. The chamber fell silent. Each council member was processing what they had heard, weighing the benefits and risks of accepting humanity into their civilization. Finally, the speaker spoke. We will need time to deliberate. But Captain Chen, I thank you for your honesty. You have given us much to consider. As Chen and Velthus left the chamber, the commander turned to her. That was well said, Captain. But I must ask, do you truly believe humans can live peacefully with us? Chen looked out at the stars through the station's viewport. Commander, we have fought our way across Earth and survived everything our planet could throw at us. We have stared into the face of nuclear annihilation and chosen peace. If we can do that, we can certainly learn to be good neighbors. But we will always be ready to defend our friends. That is simply who we are. The council deliberations lasted 3 days. During that time, Captain Chen and her crew remained aboard the Indomitable, making repairs and waiting for a decision. Velthus visited daily, his curiosity about humans growing with each conversation. On the 3rd day, the council reached its conclusion. The message came directly from Speaker Moravian herself. The Galactic Council has decided to send a delegation to your homeworld, Captain Chen. Before we can make a final decision about humanity's membership, we must see Earth for ourselves. We must understand your civilization in its entirety, not just through one ship and one crew. Chen had expected this. Of course, Speaker. We welcome your delegation. I will need to contact my government and arrange for proper reception. Earth is 42 light-years from here. With our current drive technology, the journey will take approximately 6 weeks. 6 weeks, Velthus repeated later as they prepared for the journey. Your ships are slower than ours, but I am beginning to understand why. You built for reliability rather than speed. Exactly. A slower ship that arrives is better than a faster ship that breaks down halfway. The journey back to Earth gave the Council delegation time to observe human culture more closely. The Indomitable was not just a warship. It was a small community. The crew of 400 came from dozens of different nations and ethnic backgrounds. They spoke different languages, practiced different religions, and had different cultural traditions. Yet they worked together with seamless coordination. How do you maintain unity with such diversity? One of the council delegates asked during a shared meal. Lieutenant Morrison, Chen's second officer, answered. We learned that diversity makes us stronger. Different perspectives help us solve problems more effectively. And when you are on a ship light years from home, everyone becomes family regardless of where they came from. The delegate seemed confused, but surely conflicts arise. Disagreements based on cultural differences? Of course, Morrison agreed. We argue all the time, but we have learned to argue productively, to disagree without hating, to find compromise without surrendering our identities. It took us a long time to learn these lessons, but they were necessary for survival. As Earth grew closer, Chen began receiving reports from her government. Preparations were being made for the Council's arrival. But she could sense tension in the messages. Humanity was nervous. First contact with an advanced galactic civilization was a moment of profound importance. One mistake could doom humanity's chance at joining the greater community. Finally, after 6 weeks of travel, Earth appeared on the view screens. The blue and green world hung in space like a jewel, white clouds swirling across its surface. The council delegates crowded around the viewports, fascinated by their first glimpse of humanity's homeworld. It looked peaceful, beautiful, nothing like what they had expected after hearing about Earth's harsh nature. "It is lovely," one delegate whispered. "Wait until you see it up close," Chen said. "Earth can be beautiful and terrible at the same time." As they approached Earth, the council delegates received their first shock. Space around the planet was crowded, not with a few dozen ships as they had expected, but with thousands. Orbital stations, defense platforms, industrial facilities, and warships. So many warships. Velthus stared at the tactical display in disbelief. "Captain, my sensors are detecting over 3,000 military vessels in Earth orbit. And those are just the ones on active patrol." "Yes, Commander. Earth maintains a large defense fleet. Old habits." "Old habits?" A council delegate looked alarmed. "You have more warships than the entire council fleet combined. Who are you defending against?" Chen smiled sadly. "Ourselves, mostly. Remember, we only recently stopped fighting each other. Having a strong mutual defense force helps keep the peace. It is easier to resist starting a war when you know you cannot win it." The delegation descended to Earth's surface, landing at the United Nations headquarters in New York. The city sprawled in every direction, home to over 20 million people. Towers of glass and steel reached toward the sky. The streets bustled with activity as humans and their vehicles moved in organized chaos. "So many," a delegate breathed. "How many humans live on this one planet?" 8,400,000,000 at last count, Chen answered. "Earth is crowded, which is one reason we have expanded into space so aggressively. We need room to grow." The formal reception was held in the General Assembly Hall. Representatives from every human nation attended. The Secretary General of the United Nations, an elderly woman named Sarah Okonkwo, greeted the council delegation personally. "Welcome to Earth," she said warmly. "We are honored by your visit. We hope this is the beginning of a long and prosperous friendship between humanity and the Galactic Council." Over the next several days, the council delegates toured Earth. They visited cities and wilderness areas, factories and farms, universities and military bases. Each location revealed more about humanity's complex nature. They saw poverty and wealth existing side by side. They saw humans working to solve problems of hunger, disease, and inequality. They saw art museums filled with beauty and memorials dedicated to the victims of past wars. They saw schools where children learned and hospitals where the sick were healed. But they also saw the military installations, bases housing armies trained for war, bunkers designed to survive nuclear attacks, command centers capable of coordinating planetary defense, weapons that could level cities or punch through starship armor. "You say you have learned peace," one delegate confronted Secretary General Okonkwo. "Yet you maintain weapons of terrible power. How can we trust you?" Okonkwo met the delegate's eyes steadily. "We maintain these weapons because we remember what happens when we do not. We tried disarming once in our history. The nations that did were conquered by those that did not. We learned that peace must be defended, not merely wished for. So yes, we keep our weapons, but we also keep them under strict control. Multiple safeguards exist to prevent their misuse. We learned from our mistakes." On the 5th day of their visit, Velthus asked to speak with Chen privately. They met in a quiet garden near the UN building, surrounded by trees and flowers. It was hard to believe this peaceful place existed on the same planet as those military installations. "Captain, I must confess something," Velthus began. "When we first encountered the Indomitable, I thought your species was either primitive or foolish. Now I understand we were the foolish ones." "How so?" "We have spent thousands of years avoiding conflict, hiding behind our technology, building a civilization that depends on nothing bad ever happening. But what happens if something does? What happens if we encounter a real threat? We are not prepared. We do not have the resilience you have built into every aspect of your society." Chen nodded slowly. "Every civilization makes choices, Commander. You chose elegance and efficiency. We chose redundancy and resilience. Neither approach is wrong. They are just different. But your approach has a cost," Velthus observed. "I have seen the memorial walls. The millions who died in your wars, the cities destroyed, the suffering endured. Was it worth it?" That is a question every generation of humans must answer for themselves, Chen said quietly. Would we be better off if our history had been peaceful? Perhaps, but that is not the history we were given. We had to survive the world we were born into, not the world we wished for. And yes, we paid a terrible price, but we did survive. We are here, and we remember the lessons we learned along the way. What lessons? Philthus asked. That peace is precious because we know the cost of war. That cooperation is powerful, because we remember the pain of division. That diversity is strength because we learned that unity does not require uniformity. We are not proud of everything in our past, Commander, but we are proud of what we built in spite of that past. On the final day of their visit, the council delegation gathered for a last meeting with human leaders. Speaker Moravian had reviewed all their reports, watched all the recordings, and considered all the implications. Humanity presents the council with an unprecedented situation, she announced. You are technologically sophisticated, but philosophically different from any species we have encountered. You are capable of both great violence and great compassion. You have nuclear weapons and children's hospitals, warships and nature preserves. You are a contradiction. We are human. Secretary General Okonkwo replied simply. We contain contradictions because life contains contradictions. We try to balance our capacity for harm with our desire to help. We do not always succeed, but we never stop trying. The speaker was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke words that would change the galaxy forever. The Galactic Council has decided to offer humanity probationary membership. You will have representatives in our chambers. You will have access to our technology and trade networks. You will be bound by our laws and protected by our treaties. But you will also be watched carefully. Humanity is powerful, and power must be balanced with responsibility. We understand, Okonkwo said, and we accept. Humanity promises to be a responsible member of the galactic community. We will share our strengths and learn from yours. We will defend the innocent and promote peace. This is our oath that evening. Captain Chen and Commander Velta stood on an observation deck watching Earth rotate slowly beneath them.